Go! Run him, run him. Stay on him, stay on him. That him, boy. Angela, that's a sack on the ball. Good job.
Take me back into another time when we were still in love, a different life. It's a different life.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Brothers Blitz podcast.
What's up?
Okay. A podcast where we are only going to talk about the New York Rangers.
Who are they?
Their great, amazing win over Carolina. So,
Oh, yeah.
thank you, Chris Kreider.
I was going to say by Rangers, you mean Chris Kreider.
And Chris Kreider doing something for the Rangers that's only been done by two other people. Scoring a hat trick in the playoff game. You know the other two people who've done it for the Rangers?
I do not know.
Mark Messier, Wayne Gretzky.
All right.
Like, what a list.
Great company to be in, honestly.
What a list.
And he did it just in the third period alone.
Just
so
the third
honestly,
period.
like, kudos.
Just the third period. Well, and I think that was the list. I think it was like the score. I can't remember if it was a hat trick in one period or I can't remember.
I think that's what it was, like hat trick in one period.
Yeah. That was crazy. But anyway, we're not actually going to talk about that. That was just...
No, we're not. That was our little hockey segue.
Yeah, I think it's actually a hockey Zamboni. No. No? Instead of a segue?
No, I know what you're saying, but let's move on.
You don't put a segue on ice.
I know what you're saying.
That's dangerous. But, folks, we are going to be talking about, for this episode, we are going to be talking about some of the NFL schedule things, since that was just released on Wednesday night. So
yeah, Wednesday night. Way too far dragged out in my own personal opinion, but we'll dig into that in a minute.
That's the thing with the NFL. They're trying to take up as much space as possible. They just want to take up all of the space, even when there's not football. So.
Yeah, even when we are almost like the furthest away you can get from meaningful football,
right?
Because I know everybody says oh, it's right after the Super Bowl. That's meaningless football time. No, it's not, because the draft is 6 weeks later. So.
And that's a big free agency. You've got
free agency, that's huge, and that starts in March. So that's huge. Everybody's already gearing up for that. It's May through July is
But that's the thing. I mean,
football time.
That's kind of what they're doing. And in some ways,
right.
I mean, I think the argument you can make for that is it is helpful for the fact that, many content creators do have football. It's oh, we only do football. So if we're going to do content, we have to have football to talk about. Then doing a schedule release, even though it's not really as important as it's made to seem,
it's not.
At least it has the illusion of that. And then
right.
And now it's great, we've got things to talk. It's think of all the TV shows, on Fox and CBS and things like that, where they're okay, great. Now we've at least got 2 days of talking about the schedule, and then probably within the next week or so, they're going to have the big time analysts come in who are oh, here's how much travel teams are doing, and here's how many,
all that nonsense,
all of that extra stuff that they get to throw up now and act like it's all as important as it seems. And there are some statistics to it, but not I don't think it's as heavy.
Not enough to basically talk about 24/7 for 3 or 4 days.
No, but it's just what else are they gonna do?
Right. It's mid-May when baseball's going and basketball and hockey playoffs are in full swing.
Right. So let's kind of dive into some of this stuff.
Yeah, you had a few teams that you highlighted, and I have some of my own personal thoughts as well.
Let's go start with some of the teams. Let's start with the teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of the ones to look at here that were kind of interesting. I think one of the big ones that I found very interesting. Here we go. I might have just pulled something up on the other screen. That's fine. But So one of them that's pretty interesting that seems like a huge favor is the Bears. So
yeah, I've heard that already.
yeah, so listen to kind of here's what we've got for the Bears starting out. First off, game against the Titans feels like a pretty nice thing to have done.
And that's at home, right?
Yeah, at home. Yeah. Now they do have to go to Houston next. That may not, but that's kind of a cool game. CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
So it's versus here. Let me just let's go up to the bye week first. We should have a bye week in week 7. Actually, maybe
Perfect.
even a little bit after. But so you got versus the Titans at Houston, at Indianapolis, versus the Rams, versus the Panthers, versus the Jaguars, which is a London game. And then they have their bye week because they have the London game. So
right.
And then even after that, it's at Washington, at Arizona, then versus the Patriots. I mean, like that's a pretty
That's not tough.
That is not a crazy 10, or 9 game because they have the bye week in there. Slate.
No, it's not. Like no, that's not. That's a pretty good way to like almost ease Caleb Williams into everything.
Exactly. And so
maybe the London game will be tough because he's probably never been to London and Jacksonville's roster is kind of used to that. And then obviously week 2 against Houston, going into Houston against CJ Stroud, that'll be tough. But man.
Well, and so what's interesting about that too is they don't have, if I'm looking at this right, none of their first 9 games, no division, nothing in their own division.
Oh, wow. You're right. That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm just re-looking it over. I'm like, nope, none of those in their division. Yeah,
there's no Packers, no Lions,
Packers aren't until week
Vikings.
11 at home.
Wow.
And then they get and then it's going to be heavy. They're going to be pretty heavy on that.
Right.
But like you said, like that's the nice thing. It's like one, you get to ease Caleb Williams in. They can kind of figure out. It looks like they're going to have some time to figure out their offense because it's like also if you're looking like defensive wise, Titans not great there. Houston, even though that could be a really good game, defense was, we'll see. I mean, D'Amico Ryans is great. So, I mean,
right.
We'll see with that. But it's like, but still, it's not like they have, they have pretty good on the pass rush side, but, they definitely had some struggles. Then you've got Indianapolis. The Rams are still kind of figuring out the defensive side.
Especially now that Aaron Donald's gone. Yeah.
Obviously, the Panthers.
Colts aren't great on defense. The Panthers aren't great on defense.
Jags are not great on defense.
No.
I don't really know what Washington's going to be, I
think Washington will still be solid on the defensive side, but like, I was talking to a Washington fan on Wednesday and he's delusional. He thinks Jaden Daniels is going to light it up. And I told him, I was like, even if he does, you've got another Robert Griffin on your hands. So I still don't buy Washington at all. And I think the Bears will win that game.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
their defense will be good, just like it has been the last few years. But Washington's still such a wild card on offense that the defense almost doesn't matter.
Yeah, so I mean, probably Houston's probably the best of the defenses they're probably going to face. It's just,
for sure.
In that first bit, it's just kind of crazy. It's just kind of like a really nice setup, it feels like, for the Bears that they can hopefully figure it out. Yeah.
Yep.
And then by the time
I can easily see them going like 6-3 or 7-2 in that spot.
Yeah, and then by the time they get to that final, that gauntlet, facing the teams. I mean, because then it goes Packers, Vikings, at Detroit, at San Francisco, at Minnesota versus Lions versus Seahawks, and then at Green Bay is the last one. So, but at least at that point, they probably at least have hopefully at that point, they figured out kind of what they want to do on the offensive side, and maybe they kind of got a groove going there.
Right.
So yeah,
that is a brutal stretch, though. Good Lord.
Yeah, but like I said, it's like if you're gonna have a stretch, at least it's coming when you have a chance for your rookie quarterback to get his legs under him first.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, so by the time you play the big boys, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully it's at least competitive.
He's got a lot more confidence.
And, you're not necessarily expecting to win them all, but you could be going in with a pretty good record. Maybe if you can win half, lose half, you're in the playoffs. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
I
think that'd be perfectly reasonable with that stretch. So,
Yeah.
Of that, what, 7, 8 games, winning half of those?
Yeah, it'll be interesting once we get to, once, we do our own predictions and kind of go through the games and figure out, like,
Right.
um, and figure out, like,
And
where you think the
anything.
wins and losses are, but
Right. And like anything, we won't know anything until we actually,
yeah.
see it.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I did want to talk about, that I think gets too much attention is the strength of schedule. Mostly because it's based off of last year,
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like you don't really know a team's strength of schedule until the year's actually over.
Oh, right. Right.
Yeah, and they show that. I mean, there's times where it just flips around. Like, oh, we thought they had, a really tough year, but then this team got injured. This person got injured, and
These
this
2 or 3
team wasn't
teams
as good as
were
we
really
thought.
good are actually really
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, because you just don't know what can happen, and so it's just like, don't get, if I'm somebody, I try not to get too
Wrapped
caught
up in that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like, oh, where do we rank on the strength of schedule? Because sometimes that'll be a big fan complaint, like, look how screwed we're getting, look how our strength of schedule,
Right,
whatever.
right.
And you're just like, well, most of that is, and the other thing, it's like, not only is that not as important, I think, it does matter what your strength of schedule is. The problem is that when you're going based off of last year, you don't really know how much that's going to affect the next year.
Right. And my thought on that too has always been, if you're a consistently winning team, your schedule should be harder.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Because in theory, you should still be able to beat these teams.
Well, yeah.
Even if they were good last year, you were better than them. You should be able to beat them still. So,
well, and you're usually,
I've never gotten that complaint either.
And you're gonna play teams that you played in the playoffs when you're
right.
one of those teams. So that's gonna happen. It's, and then sometimes there is luck, right? Because it's just like, oh, it's just our year to get the NFC South. Yay.
Yeah,
like,
right,
but like that stuff's pre-decided. Like that stuff's just like, that's a schedule. Like, okay, it's our year to get this one. It's our year to get this one,
Right.
I mean, it's just like, if I'm a team and I got the AFC North, I'd be like, God dang it. It's our year to have the AFC North. Like,
Right.
Not this time.
But then, like, during those, like, bad AFC South years, you're going, score.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like 4 wins right in the bag.
I mean, this year, to me, it might be possibly, like, on the AFC side, the AFC East might be the one that I feel... Well, I guess AFC South's still not great, but it's just like...
I'd still feel AFC West, like, minus the Chiefs, you're like, score. I got the AFC
but
West.
the Chargers are going to be better.
I don't know. I'm the jury's still out for me on. I know what Harbaugh did with the Niners in year 1, and he's coming off a national championship, but that team is a mess. So I don't buy it necessarily in year 1, because it's like, I thought about this and somebody mentioned it to me actually last night, who used to be a Chargers fan. He's now an Eagles fan. Ugh. But we talked about Harbaugh briefly, and I was like, because he's still a little bit excited about the Chargers and what Harbaugh may bring to it. And because he mentioned the 49ers thing, and I was like, well, that 49ers roster was already good. It's just the coaches that came in didn't know how to, like, coach it right. The Chargers are old, for one, minus Justin Herbert, and they've had problems for years. I don't think Harbaugh turns it around in year 1 like he did with the 49ers. I just don't see it.
Well, so here's the thing. I wouldn't necessarily predict a complete turnaround, but like one thing you're going to know is they're just going to be more solid. They're going
that's true.
The fundamentals of football are going to be way more sound than what they've had. They do kind of have their first 2 games is a great start for them, because they start off with the Raiders and then the Panthers.
Yeah.
Now they do now it's a little tough. Now, so here's the stuff that is working against the Chargers, though. Is then they go Pittsburgh, Kansas City. They have a week 5 bye. That sucks. That definitely sucks. So, but then coming off the bye, Denver, Arizona, New Orleans, who knows with Cleveland? I mean, obviously the defense is good there, but who knows what, quarterback's going to look like for them. You know? And then they got the Titans.
I think the Titans are going to be terrible.
Oh, yeah, me too.
They're going to be bad.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like they've definitely got – I think they're going to be more sound. I don't know. I'll see what happens. I don't know if I would, like, get them to, like, the playoffs or something. But they're going to be a tougher out for teams.
Yeah.
Just because they're going to be more sound football-wise and because of Herbert. And, like, it doesn't mean they're going to be high scoring or anything. But it's like, they invest for the offensive line. They're going to run the ball. So they're not going to take up – there's going to be a lot of my brain's gonna work. I swear it will. There's just gonna be time. There's gonna be less time to run things up, and they're gonna kind of smash. Usually gonna sort of smash mouth teams, which makes things a little bit harder. I just think they're gonna be a tougher team to play. So even if they're not gonna be in the playoffs. The only reason why I'm saying is that when you're talking about like, oh, look of the draw AFC West, it's like it may not be as good. Now, obviously, you still got Denver and the Raiders, and who knows, I mean, Denver, I don't know anything. I just.
That is a put a quarter in the slot and see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know what to do about Denver. And the Raiders,
even the Raiders, the Raiders look good under Antonio Pierce, but still like
I know, and like if he's good, that's great, but it still feels like to me like just the guy coming in with new energy. Everybody was actually playing better just because they were happy to have just an awful head coach out of the picture.
Right.
So I don't know what's gonna happen with Raiders, but anyway, other teams I did want to take a peek at, and we're not gonna spend a bunch of time on this, but
no, because I took a quick peek at everybody's schedules and they looked pretty normal, in terms of like playoff teams, fringe playoff teams. The year
one
before.
that is interesting, I'm gonna bring it forward so people can see it. That way I don't have to do this later, are the Steelers. Now, the Steelers have a horrendous back half.
They do. That I did know.
Horrendous. Now, they do have, they have a pretty decent time to get their bye week at least. But they've got, I mean, it's just, one, I hate it when they do this. They have, so it goes Baltimore, Cleveland, at Cincinnati, and then Cleveland again. Like, why make them so close? Division games like that. Like, I just hate that. Like,
is that on the back half of the schedule?
This is back half. So coming out of their bye week, they go at Washington, so that's nice. But then it's Baltimore at Cleveland let me just read their last half. So it's at Washington, which is fine. Then you've got Baltimore at Cleveland, at Cincinnati, Cleveland at Philly, at Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincinnati.
Jesus.
I mean, good Lord.
God. You're playing Super Bowl contenders like 6 times in the last 8 weeks. Like, that's nuts.
Yeah, and usually Cleveland's defense is not an easy...
Well, and we've all seen for years on end that even if a team is not great in the AFC North, when they play each other, those games are nasty.
Yeah. So it's just kind of crazy. Now, I mean, it could mean like with their first half, they go in feeling pretty good. Like, this is the thing. It's like, is it going to be like one of those teams that we think is really good, and then they get to their second half of games and like,
right.
I mean, because their opening schedule is like at Atlanta, which is a great time because we'll see what's going on with Atlanta. It's like even if Atlanta ends up being good first week, that's probably a pretty good time to hit them. While
right before they find their bearings.
We'll see if Cousins is even playing the game if he's healthy enough. But if he is, he may still be kind of like a little timid on it. So then you've got at Denver, then you've got the Chargers, which is again I think the Chargers will be a tougher out, but it doesn't mean you can't beat them. At Indianapolis.
No, and that Chargers game will basically be a home game for the Steelers.
Yeah, they get Dallas at home. Then it's at Vegas, New York Jets, and then Giants, and then their bye week. So, I mean, it's like those are all very winnable. Dallas probably being the toughest game.
Is that game in Dallas?
No. No, Pittsburgh
Oh
gets them at
man,
home, so
yeah.
that's
If it's
helpful.
in Pittsburgh, that's very winnable to me.
Yeah, and then the Jets could be tough. We'll see, too. I don't know. But again, they also get that at home. So,
Oh right.
so like their
Maybe they'll
toughest
tear Aaron
2
Rodgers'
games
ACL again.
of that first half, they at least get them at home.
Right.
So it's just kind of an interesting, but that's such a crazy gauntlet that they get in the back half,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I almost wonder if it's almost like the Eagles last year. How
Oh,
people are like,
yeah.
oh, look at the Eagles. And we kept talking, like, I just don't know. I've been watching these games.
Like,
they're
oh,
not
the
looking
Eagles are 10-1. They're gonna make it.
Yeah,
And they're 11-6.
right. It's like it doesn't feel real, and it's like
Well, I mean, the Steelers themselves did that back in, what was it, 2020, where they were 11-0 or whatever the hell it was, and then ended up 11-5.
Yeah.
Literally lost their last 5 games.
Well, and so this could be the thing of just like, to me, is but how the schedule's working out is probably working out great for Russell Wilson. If he's going to start out as the starter, because he's probably going to get a handful of wins. And then they'll be like, oh, yeah, look, it's Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, it's all working. And then we'll really see. But by the time you get to that back half, it's like, yeah, maybe they go to Justin Fields, but, who knows, They may just stick with Wilson because, like, well, no, look what we did the first half of the year. We got to be better around him.
In the first half. Look, Wilson's the guy.
Yeah, it could be that could be an interesting, versus like the Bears. You're like, oh, it's kind of easy, but it's not like crazy hard like that at the end for the Bears. Mostly, one, they weren't a playoff team, so.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like it's nice for them because it's like rookie quarterback. They kind of get to figure things out a little bit. Steelers, it's like, yeah, they have a new quarterback, but it feels like less of a need where they would need to figure it out. They would probably like to spread out. And I think it was Tomlin, did have a bit of a complaint about it where he was like, well, that's not necessarily how I would have scheduled it. Just like, come on. Like, that's a little insane.
To that, he's got a point because, like, I get that you want a decent amount of division games near the end of the season, but the fact that you backloaded basically their entire schedule with just divisional games is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
To me personally, like, they should be spread out
with the level. The level of it is insane.
Right, like that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I hate when they just try to compile all the division games in the second half. It's the nice thing about them playing twice is, guess what? Is you can have one a little bit earlier and one later. Like,
yeah.
It's like they're
not only that, you can see like the difference in the teams and the styles and all that over the course of the season.
Yeah, because that could, you're right, because that could be interesting too. Where it's like, oh man, don't worry, guys, we beat them in week 3, but then you see them again in week 15. It's like, well, they're a different team now, so we'll see. If we can kind of keep that. But, and since we mentioned Atlanta, I did want to talk a little bit about theirs, because this is what I find, and just for a specific reason here, is, one, their opening 3 games are tough. So they start out Pittsburgh, at Philadelphia, and then Kansas City. And the reason why I'm saying this is if Kirk Cousins is playing week 1, this is a possible 0-3 start. So like now, we'll see with Philadelphia, what kind of they got going on and stuff. But it could be interesting because it's like if Cousins isn't 100% healthy, but he wants himself out there,
right?
If they start 0-3, you start wondering if people go, well, I don't know, maybe we should go to Penix.
We got Penix. Should we think about that?
Yeah, or other way around, if Kirk Cousins isn't good to go, for the first couple of weeks, this could work out in his favor because Penix comes in and has to play these tough 3 games. He may not look that great because he's a rookie. And having to play against some of these teams could be tough, especially obviously Pittsburgh and Kansas City's defenses. But even Philadelphia getting a couple new corners, we'll see how they feel week 2.
Right.
it's it could be a little tough, and then Cousins, it could work out great for Cousins because then he gets to come in, say, like week 4 against New Orleans, and then Tampa Bay, and then Carolina,
In 3 straight division games to be like, yes, this is why he's
and then they're like,
signed
aha, Cousins, so that
me.
yeah, so that was
Here I am.
that was just kind of an interesting. I just wanted to talk about that their beginning schedule could be interesting depending on who's starting for them. I think that was definitely something interesting going on there. And then let me see. I think we should talk about the Niners a little bit.
Their schedule is brutal at one point.
Well, it's interesting because some of this I think kind of has worked out okay. I actually don't know. I don't know if I would say brutal. I mean, now they have a Chiefs and Cowboys back to back.
Yeah, but they do have a bye week in between there.
No. The bye week's after that.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So, but
Wait,
here's what's
before.
interesting. Here's the thing that's kind of helping out. Obviously, they start off with the Jets. That's probably a nice time to get the Jets. I think,
Yeah.
right? Is going to be the week 1. Again, we'll see how healthy everybody is. Who knows? I mean, sometimes teams surprise you, but it feels like that could be an okay time to have the Jets. And then they play the Vikings. Again, Vikings early, figuring out rookie quarterback or Sam Darnold. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, and so that was something I saw yesterday or Thursday morning, rather. Yeah, like early yesterday morning when reactions were coming in. Oh, the 49ers haven't beaten the Vikings in Minnesota since 1992. Yeah, but in 1992, their quarterback was Brad Johnson, who's actually pretty solid, not Sam Darnold and a rookie J.J. McCarthy.
Or J.J. McCarthy, yeah.
Yeah, that is way different.
Yeah. And then they're at the Rams. Well, obviously, you're going to have to play the Rams. So, it's so whenever you're.
Right, but I'm sorry. At the Rams, which is basically a 49ers home game.
Right, yeah. But then they got the Patriots, and then they got the Cardinals.
It's not
so
tough.
they got nice. The division games are spread out more in the West. So this is actually what's nice because they go to then they're at the Seahawks, but that's a Thursday game. And then
that's where I thought the bye week came in.
Because, and then they've got the Chiefs
10 days later.
So it's kind of nice because they get that mini bye right before playing the Chiefs and then playing the Cowboys. So that's kind of nice.
And then they get their actual bye.
Yeah, and then they get their actual bye, right? Yeah. And then they come back against the Buccaneers, Seahawks. They are Packers.
Which is also great travel-wise because the Niners are at home for the Patriots and Cardinals. Yeah. And then Seattle's not that far. They come back 10 days later at home for the Chiefs and Cowboys, and then their bye week. Then they go to Tampa Bay, which
Now, the tough thing is that they are at Packers and at Bills in November and December. So
I was like, that's a tough little stretch.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see where the Bills are at that point. Packers, maybe we'll talk about them when we kind of get our picks and stuff. I'm kind of interested, I'm trying to decide if the Packers are just the overhyped team.
Oh yeah,
coming in. Yeah. But then they play the Bears, and the Bears, who knows? We'll see how good they are. But then the Rams again, and then they're at Dolphins versus the Lions and at the Cardinals to wrap up. So it is a pretty. It's not an easy stretch towards the end, but like you said, I mean, everybody has to play hard teams. You're a good team. You're gonna have to play. It's just amongst some of the other ones we've talked about. It's just that's really not a bad spread. They
really don't.
The way it's spread out is not that bad to me.
Well, and that, we just mentioned before, they kind of lucked into the AFC East, which is looking a little bit weaker than it has over the last few years. Well, it's not their fault that based on the season rotation that they lucked into the AFC East this year. That's not their fault.
Yeah, because even even when the Dolphins had all of their stuff, I mean, the 49ers still rocked them anyway.
Still beat them, yeah.
But it's but now it's who knows what they're going to be. I mean, this could honestly be the year for the Dolphins when they're I think we got to move off of Tua. That could be
especially that late in the season. Who knows? Maybe they already moved off.
Whether it's right or wrong, who knows? I don't know, but it could be looking tough. Who knows what their defense is going to be like? I mean, they had to shed so much,
Yep.
and and getting Miami when it's now, luckily for Miami, it's in Miami, but it's not like. But actually, playing Miami later in the year can be nice. One, because sometimes they seem to start falling apart around
Right.
then.
For no reason.
Yeah. When you're going to Miami, it's nice not to have to visit when it's like insanely hot.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, when you're not going, you're like, oh, sweet, it's not crazy cold. I get to go to Miami for a week.
yeah. So, so that that may not be.
Unless you're the
Not bad.
Patriots, who could never beat Miami, no matter what, in Miami.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's just
Unless you're Tom Brady, who couldn't beat
Just the
Miami
thing.
to save his life.
Yeah.
In Miami.
So it's just gonna be kind of interesting. So I think I think actually the 49ers came out pretty decent on it. So that's why I wanted to bring them up. I thought they actually had a pretty decent little.
It's really not that bad. Like I think I knee-jerked reaction when I first saw it.
Sure.
It was like, oh man, Bills, Chiefs, Cowboys. Good God, this is tough.
Yeah. But the
But
Bills
looking
they got
back on it,
later,
it's
it's
actually
like
not
the
that bad.
Chiefs Cowboys back to back. It's like sure, but at least again they get that little mini bye before playing the Chiefs. So
Before
it's
playing the Chiefs, and also like we just said, well, it's expected. Like a good team is going to play good teams back to back. Even they're going to do it. It's going to happen.
Well, so the one thing that's kind of, I guess, is getting in the way of like, are the Packers too overhyped? Is, I mean, they do have the NFC South as well, so that's gonna help them. So maybe
Is it though?
the Packers? Yeah. I mean, it's still got to be the worst of all the divisions you'd want to get.
Yeah,
right?
the NFC. Yeah, you're right. Because you still don't know what you're getting with the Saints. Is Cousins healthy?
Yeah.
And the Panthers are the Panthers. Yeah, you're right. Never mind.
I mean, because it's like how often do we go? Oh, maybe the Falcons. Oh, they could be.
Yeah,
feisty,
that's true.
You
No,
know?
you're right. I take that back.
Yeah.
Sorry, NFL fans. I take it back. The NFC South is still the worst of the NFC.
Yeah, it's still the one to get. I mean, obviously though, but the thing is, like their own division. Who knows? It's going to be tough. It's the NFC North is going to be interesting because it's like everybody wants to pick basically Lions, Packers, Bears, all playoff team.
Yeah.
And that's not easy. It happens, but it's not easy to have, because it is like you are kind of beating up on yourselves, on each other a little bit.
Right.
And it's the Packers. The thing with the Packers for me, sorry to viewers, I just did a whole thing just happened. So the thing with the Packers is I just still wonder, it's like, can you trust the back half of the year being a full year next year? Because that's kind of what everybody's projecting. You're going, what they did the back half of the year, I mean, obviously, they killed the Cowboys. They were up on the, they killed the first half on the Niners. So I get it. I get, like, you're watching those playoff games and you're like, wow. Like,
yeah.
Look
kill the Cowboys toe-to-toe with the 49ers. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, so I mean, I get that, but it's still a little like, it's a little like, is it too, is it actually easy to say Jordan Love is going to continue to be that? And that's kind of where I am with it, where I'm like, it's easy to just go, oh, well, look at Jordan Love second half of the year. Obviously, he's the guy. Great. That's going to continue, or does more of his, what some people would call Brett Favre qualities, which obviously, I mean, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, but, it's like, but if he's not Brett Favre.
He's not, but that's just me.
If he's not Brett Favre, though.
Oh, I was going to say, well, for me, Brett Favre's not a Hall of Fame QB, but that's just.
Oh, I think he's got to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. I think I disagree with that, but
you know what? That could be another summer topic.
Yeah, but it's like, but is he going to be? Are those what's going to be the mistake level? Because it's like one of the reasons why they're talking is like, yeah, he's a bit more of a gunslinger like a Brett Favre, and it's like, yeah, and those mistakes can mount up. And if he can't overcome those, like, that's what we'll see. I mean, it's just like, I have trouble like getting rid of that last bit of the 49ers game. I mean, that that throw was atrocious.
Oh, it was awful.
A decision.
I mean, that was like 25 years later watching vintage Brett Favre just throw it into coverage for no freaking reason.
Right, and it's like so maybe you'll always be solid because I mean, LaFleur does seem to be a very good coach, so it's like maybe you'll be solid, but I mean, are you just gonna, kind of keep fizzling out,
Yeah,
and
right,
it's hard because you can't even say that they fizzled out last year because they definitely beat
No, they didn't. They
expectations.
far exceeded expectations, sure.
But it's just one of those teams that I wonder. It's like, did we just get too excited for a certain sample of games?
Yeah.
And we're just assuming that's going to continue.
And now, which can't be understated, now the entire league has a full year of film on Jordan Love.
Mm-hmm.
Of what worked against him and what didn't work against him and all that. And everybody said the same thing about Purdy last year, and Purdy went out and balled out anyways.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, it's
quarterbacks can adjust, but at the same time, can the quarterback adjust?
And that's the thing that I feel like that people, it's like, this isn't saying that Jordan Love can't. It's just saying that it's just saying we actually have only seen it for a handful of games.
Right.
And let's just see. And I just wouldn't get on the hype train of like, why not Super Bowl this year? I mean, look how far we got last year, and we have all the same guys, and we all have an extra year of experience. And you're like, all of that, and it's like, those aren't bad arguments, but it's still also like, we'll see, because you weren't like that the whole year. Again, of course, very young team. You're still one of the youngest teams. I mean, I like them getting Josh Jacobs. I think that was a good a good pickup.
Hell, I was even like that with Purdy. Even after they made the run to the championship game, even I was like, I want him to be the guy. That would be great. I'm still out.
Yeah.
A little bit. Like, I think he is the guy. I really do, but I still don't. I don't know yet.
But I also feel that way about the Texans. It's like everybody just wants to get ready on the Texans train, and I get it because like CJ Stroud looked great. And it's not saying he's not a great quarterback, but this year it could be another thing of just like, okay, what kind of adjustments are people making, and how fast does he adjust to the adjustments?
Right.
So, and sometimes for quarterbacks, it takes that second year can be, they always say the sophomore slump. Obviously, it's like
right.
It's like there's a reason for that, and it's not that the player's bad. It's just now that teams have adjusted, it takes the player a little bit to figure out, okay, how have you adjusted, and how do I work around it? Sometimes it can just take a little bit for that to kind of go off. So, like, I'm not ready to go Texans, definitely. I mean, because it's like people also forget, it's like the Texans probably wouldn't even been in the playoffs if Jacksonville didn't collapse.
Oh, they absolutely would not have been in the playoffs, and we wouldn't be having this conversation.
So, it's like we would have been excited about CJ Stroud still, right? But it's like, but people are talking like Texans Super Bowl, where like if they didn't make the playoffs last year, people probably would have been like, oh, playoffs this year, they were very close, they looked good, it's like, and then I'd be like more reasonable, like Texans back to the playoffs, sure. The Texans Super Bowl hype to me is a little like, whoa, hold on a second.
Let's pump the brakes here.
Yeah, because it's just like, you forget, I mean, they won 10 games, all right? It's not,
right.
It's not, and again, like, Jacksonville collapsed.
The Ravens absolutely annihilated them defensively. In Baltimore. So pump the brakes. They got to get through the Ravens and the Chiefs and even the Bengals still. Let's calm it down.
Yeah, and Trevor Lawrence got hurt, and everybody seems to forget that. So it's like, he was playing, but it was one of those where it's like, it doesn't seem right. Like, something's gone wrong here. So, that they may not have that kind of luck again. So we'll see. I mean, obviously the rest. I mean, it's not like they have like the hardest division in the world, so that helps.
No, their schedule will be pretty easy.
Still, it's just like I'm just not ready to be like, oh man, they're gonna be.
One thing I did want to talk about before we get too off topic schedule wise. Cover your ears, kids. Fuck this Netflix deal. That is such bullshit. First off, Christmas is on a Wednesday, not even a normal football day.
Nope.
Why? Why are you even making this deal in the first place? Why are you forcing people to pay money to a service they don't necessarily want to watch football on a day where football never airs? This is so. Why are you putting the schedule this way? This is so stupid. Make it the day after Christmas, for God's sake. Put both games on in prime time, or like 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Like, especially when Christmas falls on a Wednesday, most people take the rest of the weekend off. If you're not in like retail or restaurants, most people take that weekend off. Like, what are you doing? This is so stupid.
This is the thing, though. This is the NFL flexing their muscles. They are going, we're the number one in sport in our country.
I know that, but good God, it's just like, where does the greed end?
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, like, that what I think it is just like they're going, we are now, we know people are off on holidays. We are now a holiday. I mean, they even have a game on Halloween.
Which is, what is Halloween this year?
I'm sure it's probably a normal football game, but it's just kind of like a.
If it's a normal football day,
it is a Thursday night. But
okay, that's fine. That doesn't bother me.
Yeah,
is that you went out of your way to schedule games?
Yeah.
On a freaking Wednesday.
But this also tells you that the Peacock thing last year worked.
It did. That's that video I mentioned to you that I was watching right before, it worked.
Yep.
Because of the he mentioned of the 3.4 million viewers, people who signed up just to watch that Peacock only playoff game of the Chiefs and Dolphins, 2.8 remained.
Yeah, exactly.
It worked.
Yeah. So
and then that for me, this is a whole different conversation in terms of capitalism and all that. But I'm like, good God, football. Can you just pump the brakes on some of this stuff? Can you let basketball have Christmas Day when it falls on a Tuesday and Wednesday? Like, come on.
No. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the NBA's pissed, but
yeah. Well, I, for one, am not signing up for Netflix to watch. I don't even care. The thing is, like, on paper, they're good games. It's Steelers, Chiefs, and Ravens, Texans. I don't give a shit. Like, no, I'm not giving into that.
Yeah. So, well, see, but that's the hard part is like probably people will. That's the,
Oh, I know they will.
It's like one of those things. It's like it doesn't matter if you decide. I don't have.
I know it doesn't matter for me,
and it sucks because
it doesn't matter that I personally won't.
Well, that's why it sucks though, is because they don't have to care.
No,
they literally don't have to. They get to go. Yeah, we're going to do it. People are going to say they're going to be pissed. People are going to be mad about it. But then guess what? We get to those games in December. We get to Christmas Day. Guess what's going to happen?
You're going to watch it.
Yeah, they're going to. And if they don't have Netflix, they're going to get now. Now Netflix. I mean, like they already have a lot of subscribers. So at least to me, when you're talking about a streaming service having football games, that to me is way better than Peacock.
Yeah. That at least makes more sense because it's like what Netflix already has over 40 million subscribers.
Right. Yeah.
Or no, more. It's way more than that.
And this is another thing, though, that is probably an argument for them doing that is think about their international subscribers. And the NFL is trying to expand out. Now, again, it's like you didn't have to do this on Christmas Day. You could have done that. You could have done this another time. Like,
thank you for saying the expanding because I wanted to. We went through the Packers schedule without mentioning their first game. Their first game is in Brazil, which is fine. I get it. You're trying to grow the brand. But that is also Peacock exclusive, which is ridiculous.
Yep.
It's so stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to watch that game. I'm not going to pay for that crap. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
It's just so insane to me. We want to grow our brand, but we're also going to make it as hard, literally as difficult as possible for our actual regional fans to watch this game.
Yeah, well, that's always going to be the thing of the. That's also, I mean, that's a whole separate conversation. That's not just sports, but it's like is streaming pushing itself too thin? With people.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too. But it's like that's a whole extra part. And for the NFL, it's like. Look, man, I mean, these guys are giving us a crap ton of money.
No, and I get it. From an NFL standpoint, if I were an NFL executive, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's bring in all the money.
Right.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it'll be, so some of that stuff's going to be interesting to see, like, how it plays down the line.
Personally, I hope it fails miserably.
Yeah. It's so tough when it's just like you you already make so much money.
So much money.
So
right.
it's just like but that's I mean, that's a whole extra capitalism discussion, I'm sure. But we don't have to get into.
It is. No, we don't.
So,
we'll go for 4 hours if we go into that.
yeah. So, it's just like, but they're doing it because they can, and they want to see
Yeah.
how much more. Basically, it's like, how much more can we get away with? How much more time can we require of people to love the sport and to watch it? How much more advantage can we take care of that love?
Right.
I mean, it's just
Take advantage of that love.
Yes, exactly. It's a bad relationship, basically.
Yeah.
And it's just like they're just seeing what they can get away with, and so far, it's worked. Now, again, that may have a limit. Who knows? And there probably is a limit of some kind, but that's also why they're trying to grow it, because if there's a limit domestically, well, what if then suddenly you have more internationally, and you still have your domestic audience? You're not like, but it's like, but what if you have a lot of people are like, you know what, I'm done with the streaming games. I don't care. It's
Right.
Well, the international people love it because it's way easier access.
Right.
You know,
and the games take place during their prime time, so who cares if we lose these few million domestic fans? We just gained 100 million international.
If you're
fans,
gaining,
so
who knows how many? Yeah.
win.
So I know it's tough, but it's I definitely agree, but it's also like it's hard when they're in a position of power.
The thing is too is like for that Packers Eagles game, which is supposed to grow the product and all that, like if you really also care about your domestic fans, you should want them to see what international crowds are like as easily as possible.
Yeah.
Not Peacock exclusive. You want to see how international fans react? Put that game on network television so these fans can see how much international fans love your own homegrown sport.
Right.
That's how I feel. Like that would make the most sense to me.
Sure.
Like you're trying to grow the game and I get it, but also like, hey, maybe let American fans as easily as possible see how much international fans also love your sport that you created. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah.
But no, let's put it on Peacock.
Yeah.
First week of the season. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Oh, look, Peacock's got to get subscribers somehow.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Got to get them.
Anyways, that's all I got. Rants, political, whatever. Rants over.
So yeah, that pretty much covers, I think, most of the schedule stuff. You know, I'm not gonna go by every single team, you know, or anything like that. But I just wanted to highlight a few of those teams and kind of like some interesting things going on with, you know, some of them getting some pretty good draws and some of them getting some pretty rough ones in the case of the Steelers back half. So,
which also, like, one last touch on that is like every team every year gets like a crap luck at the draw.
Yeah.
They play a really good division and they're also in a really good division. So even if they're a solid team, you got a really tough schedule. It's just luck at the draw.
Cowboys got some rough ones.
They do.
First half too. And that could be interesting just because it's like, if they're not going to give deals to anybody, if they do, now Cowboys tend to be a very good regular season team, so everything could be fine. But if they start off rocky and everybody's on their last year,
oh, maybe they stop carrying down the stretch.
Yeah, that could just fall apart. That could be a collapse.
Yeah,
you know, where it's just like nobody's communicating. Everybody's now playing for themselves because they're like, I got a contract. You know, like I gotta get my numbers. I gotta, you know, and then it's just like nobody's gelling. Now it could go the other. I'm sure Cowboys fans, what they're hoping for is everybody's on last year, Dak Prescott and coaches, because they'll probably sign CeeDee Lamb at some point. But
they will.
But Dak Prescott and coaches, you know, that you're hoping that they're so tuned in, right, to each other. We gotta, because if this doesn't, you know, we're all gone otherwise, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what you're hoping for, which could happen. And that's, to me, is probably the more likely scenarios, that they still do pretty well regular season-wise, you know, because they're just focused in. But there's this chance that it's like you got a rough start. You know, if you get a rough start and you've got some hard games early on, that just things, people start blaming each other because nobody wants to take the fall. Maybe Mike Zimmer, new defensive coordinator, starts taking shots at the offense or something, or Mike McCarthy starts taking shots at Zimmer, or maybe shots at Dak, trying to protect his reputation as a coach, and then Dak, even, who's not really known for taking shots or things like that, but I mean, he could be like, man, this isn't looking good. I'm trying to get a good contract from a team next year. Like, maybe I drop a little line about the offensive working, who knows? And then things just fall apart because nobody trusts each other anymore. So
who knows?
That was just another one. But that's our reaction for the schedules and our rant on Netflix for everybody out there.
The Netflix and Peacock.
We are gonna we're gonna get this episode out. And then we're going to be releasing an episode next about some of the worst playoff losses for some teams. So if you're a team...
That'll be my time to shine.
So
I did a lot of research. Never mind.
So if you feel like your team's going to be on the list and you want to be sad again, tune in. It's going to be... Yeah. So...
I was going to say something else, but I'll save it for the beginning of it.
Okay. So depression, if you're looking to just self-loathe, tune in, listen for your team, and, any hope that you have for this year, remember how much your team has failed before.
Yeah, correct.
So thanks. Yeah, so thanks for listening, folks. Remember to tune back in for that episode. And we'll see what other kind of random summer content we come up with to not go crazy.
Peace.
And have a good
Take me back, take me back.